Welcome to episode 112 of the XrmToolCast. In this episode, Scott and I speak with Mike Ochs, known as Mike Factorial in the community, about two of his tools, a brand new one and one that's been around for a while that he has made a rather large update to. So the first tool was the Power Platform CLIx, or the CLIx, which is basically just a wrap around the PAC util, the PAC CLI, and also Universal Search, which is a tool that, as the name says, search universally for something in your environment. So if you have a need to find something, or you have a hard time navigating the command line interface that comes with PAC, this is definitely the episode for you. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Welcome to another episode of the XrmToolCast. With me, your host, Daryl, always raising the bar, and Scott, I look like a Smurf to row. Scott, how's it going?
Very good, thanks, Daryl.
Okay, maybe you don't look like a surf. Just this part of your this part and up is more Smurf-like than normal.
Well, yeah, it does look a bit blue, doesn't it? I mean,
yes.
it's meant to be green. It was much greener. So those of you who are listening won't really know what's going on. Whereas I had my hair dyed green for the color challenge in Hamburg for part of the Color Clouds conference, and we raised over 10,000 euros for charity.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it was, and there was a load of us it was like 10 of us who got some of us got tattoos. I didn't get a tattoo. Some of us got our hair dyed, and it was great. It was a great conference as well. Some fantastic speakers. But yeah, it's permanent, so it'll gradually grow out. Speaking of build, in like 3 weeks, so it'll be still in sort of partially grown out. So I'm kind of working out what to do with it for build. So if anyone's got any suggestions, do I kind of carry on dyeing it, or get my roots done, or just kind of shave it off?
Either accept it or abandon it, or just do nothing.
Yeah,
I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, at the moment, it's kind of like I suppose it's like a lemming, because in the game Lemmings that I did, they've all got green hair, so I could just be like a lemming. Yeah.
Yes. I thought there was a transition there. Okay, all right.
I'm just.
Okay.
Well, I mean, yes, that I would normally do a transition, but I'm trying desperately to try and think of something to do with green hair. But other than our guest doesn't have as much hair on his head as I do. more of a more substantial beard to color. I think that would be more the thing.
Okay. I was going to say, sometimes people care more about the way things look than the way things, than being able to use things quickly. And so, sometimes we really want pretty nice, fun stuff. And sometimes we just want just straight bare bones availability, I guess. So anyway,
and I was just really searching. I was searching quite desperately for something to say.
All over. You were globally searching.
I was globally, absolutely searching the globe for something to say to transition.
The worst, probably the worst and the longest transition that we've ever had, and unfortunately, neither of those things apply to our guest. He is not the worst or the longest. So, and our guest today, a repeat guest, Michael Ochs. I'll go with his LinkedIn profile: Executive Vice President and Microsoft Power Platform MVP XrmToolCast Solutions. Your X-Twitter isn't quite as exciting. Just Microsoft MVP and maker of hashtag, like 4 hashtags. It doesn't quite have the same embellishment to it. But Mike, welcome to the show. Welcome back. How's it going?
Good. Thanks, guys. It's good to be here.
Yes.
I was going to say, Scott, my hair would grow out much faster, but I shave it off once a week.
Yes, and that may be the solution that I have to go for. Just
good look. Growing in a little bit.
You can give me some tips on that. But yeah, it's great to have you, Mike, on the show again. And really good we caught up, but we've actually I've seen you quite a lot recently, so it's it feels like I've seen you around, and so it's great to have you here on the show to talk about two exciting things that you've been up to recently.
Yeah.
One new one has been approved. Is that what I'm correctly remembering. Yep.
Yeah, one's been out there for quite a while. I kind of slacked on my maintenance of it there for a while, but I got renewed like enthusiasm about XRM Toolbox. So
yeah, you got like, I haven't been in WinForms forever. Let me get back into that. You just, you get that niche, huh? It's like spring cleaning.
I've been doing a lot. I've been doing a lot of low code, and I've missed writing code. I really have. And when I get a chance to do it, I miss my roots a little bit. Speaking of hair.
Good one. Yeah, I like that one. Yeah, you missed your roots.
I can say what we're going to talk about. New tool that I built is called, what is it called? It's called Power Platform.
PAC UI.
That was our question to you.
So it was PAC UI, and then
you changed it on me.
Yeah, I asked Copilot to help me name it something better, and it came up with Power Platform CLIx because it is a UX on top of the Power Platform CLI. So short hand is Power Platform CLIx, right? Pretty clever. So I wouldn't.
Yeah. Nice.
So that's the new one, and then I guess the other one we'll talk about was the universal search enhancement stuff. But so Power Platform CLIx is it's a UI on top of Power Platform CLI, and sort of the reason I thought that would be a good tool in the XRM Toolbox is just that there's so much you can do with the Power Platform CLI, and yet it seems so inaccessible. And it's not even inaccessible to just, your makers and people who aren't comfortable, doing command line stuff, or developers, right? It's kind of, it's even developers that I know aren't necessarily comfortable with it or haven't really dove into it. And I even in my, I've worked with it quite a bit, but it just doesn't, it doesn't quite work the way you would want something to work, I guess. It doesn't, it's not intuitive. It's not easy to figure out what the commands are, right? You got to type help, and then it gives you the list of commands and arguments, and then you type, you dig into it, you can type help again. It gives you some more details. So the idea was to sort of make all of that kind of visible in a single pane of glass, right? Like you can see all the commands that it can execute. As soon as you click one, it shows you what all the arguments are. It has the description of the argument right there, and in the middle, it'll show you like the actual command in a text box so that you could copy and paste that into a command line and run it. And it's just, it feels easier to get started with it that way. So that's pretty much was the idea behind it. I think the other thing the benefit that it brings is just getting started. So to get started with Power Platform CLI today, you can install it using .NET tools, right, from the command line. You can go out and get it on NuGet and install it, but then you don't really know where it's installed. And if you just go to a standard shell in Windows and type PAC, it's going to go, I don't know what PAC is. But if you go to if you go to PowerShell and type in PAC, then it knows for some reason. I don't know. So I always thought it was a little awkward just even getting started with it. Maybe I was doing something wrong. But what the XRM Toolbox tool does is actually it downloads it for you, right? It downloads the latest version every time, gets it off the NuGet feed, puts it right into the XRM Toolbox where, or in the space that you're working in, and executes all the commands from there. And then I guess the other part of that is getting connected, right? So once you have the tool, once you're able to interact with it, well, okay, I want to connect this up to my Dataverse environment so I can do something with it. It seems a little awkward to get started with. And I've added some capability that it'll look at the XRM Toolbox connection, and it'll kind of pre-fill some of the arguments for the Power Platform command line command to get you connected with the CLI. So
I was going to ask about that actually, because I think that was my immediate thought was like, okay, well, PAC has got its own auth profile management. So, you can say PAC auth list and you can get all the different connections, and you've got the ability to have the universal connections, and then you can select which environment you want. And whereas XRM Toolbox has got its own completely separate UI and separate profile. So what you're doing is you're still using PAC to perform its own auth. It's just that you're making easier to select an existing environment from the XRM Toolbox list and pre-populating some of that information when you do the authentication. So does that do a universal, create a universal authentication profile in PAC?
It will create it will create a record, right? Like that will show up in PAC auth list. Is that what you're referring to, or are you?
Yeah, when you can do PAC, and when you do a PAC auth, you don't give it an environment anymore. You then select an environment by saying PAC. Is it PAC env now? That used to be PAC org was one of the. It's like a synonym, I think. And so you authenticate against the Power Platform tenant using your auth, your OAuth profile, and then you go and select which particular environment you want to select as your environment to use.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, no, it does not. So, but good thing to add to the back.
Oh wow, we've got to homework already. Wow, that's pretty good.
Yes,
because I think so. You're using Dataverse profile authentication, right? Okay, because that's now deprecated and that's going away. Well, not going away, but it's deprecated at the moment. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, like I said, my own struggles with PAC and things like that I don't know about have it's helped me a little bit. So
that's good.
I didn't realize that.
Okay. So I mean, I'm just looking at the list of all the different, being out of that tree and being able to expand out all of the different commands. I mean, that's huge because like you say, it's very difficult to drill down and through the command line to kind of see. And I love the fact that you've got all of the different arguments in that property pane, using the WinForms control for showing the different properties. And you've got the little, it describes what it is in the description and everything like that.
Yeah.
How are you getting all of that information? Do you have like some kind of configuration file that you keep up to date, or do you kind of go and walk that PAC CLI, and suck it out automatically? How's that working?
Yeah, it is doing some command line scraping, right? So it's executing the commands, the help commands, and then sort of assuming that the what comes back from the command line is well formed and will be in the same format going forward, and then it parses out that text. So it's not there's no secret backdoor there. It's basically just running the same commands you would run in PAC CLI, but and then scraping off the text from it. So it's a layer on top of the command line itself.
That's always a scary thing in a tool where you're like, there's really no way that this is supported, but this should work for a long time. And, I don't think they'll change it. So I'll just go this route. And that's the route I went with. How do I connect the CRM service util to run the early bound generator in V1? I don't think Tanguy is going to change how the passwords are stored. I'm just going to, assume that won't change and go from there. So yeah, it's fun when you get to those situations where you're like, I don't think this will change. I'll just hope they don't change it and everything will just work just fine and dandy. So yes, we've all, I think, had to make those types of shortcut decisions when it comes to that. So yeah, so the UI for ours that aren't watching this or have looked at it before, right? You've got all the commands in one pane on the left-hand side, which is great just so you get to see what all is there, because it's very easy. If you don't type help every single time, you're not going to see some things like, oh, what's this? I didn't even notice this was there. And that's one thing with the command lines that it's really, I've always been frustrated with. One of the reasons I created the early bound generator, because I didn't like the command line, right? Was that you just can't see. you have to know what you want first. And if you don't know what you want, it's really hard to know, oh yeah, I want this thing. So that's nice. And then, yeah, at the bottom, it has help and information and documentation. The right inside, you have all the parameters for whatever command line that you're running, and you have output right in the middle. So yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Pretty simple. Now, my homework is I can't adjust into the pane. So if I want to, slide it over left or right, I can't do that. So come on, right. Mike.
All right,
come on, you got to be able to resize a little. I don't want to be able to like drag and drop like visuals. You don't have to do that. Just give me some sliders. That's all I want.
Fair. Yeah, no, that's fair. It's fair feedback. I appreciate that. I'll add it to the backlog.
Yeah, I was like, I think this is a slider. Is this a slider? This isn't a slider. I can't slide this. Oh, okay, interesting. So, all right, cool. So, so all you're doing is scraping over and downloading the PAC util. So the PAC CLI. So there's not a whole lot of magic going beyond just that. Then it's pretty straightforward. Did it take you a while to go through and write that? Was it? I was always interested. How bad am I in estimating? Because when I estimate something, it's like 8 hours, and 30 hours later, like, I think I'm halfway done, and then another 40 hours, I finally finished. But so what was that like for you?
It was a weekend project. So I got really motivated. Like I started working on it, kind of dabbling with it a little bit, and then at one weekend, I got really anxious to work on it, and I spent, I sat at my desk for a good probably 20 plus hours that weekend, and and pounded it out. And it's something I haven't done in a really long time. Like I used to do that a lot more, and I used to enjoy it. And I've found a renewed sort of love of just hacking code in my spare time. So the majority of the work was done that weekend. I sent it off like probably a week later for Tanguy to review. He came back with some issues, which ended up being surprise localization issues that I hadn't thought of. Right, so definitely good catch there, right? Because he was viewing it in French and hadn't accounted for that in the way I was parsing things. I think the update that I made makes it more generic. And so everything is localized to some extent, just by virtue of PAC CLI being localized as well. But yeah, it was one of those, got a wild hair and pounded out a bunch of code. It's not a lot of code, like you said, and you're kind of mentioned, Daryl, but, I think laying out the screens, it had been a while, like you said, doing WinForms. So that kind of took me longer to do
than you thought it would.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always a fun part. UI is always, I think UI is probably the worst part sometimes, because like you think it should be easy. Oh yeah, this isn't. Like I was working on a Power Pages app, and I was like, why can't I get a stupid drop down to do search? And I was like, oh, that's like a legacy. This is like a legacy. And then I hadn't ever worked with Canvas app with Pages before. And I realized, oh, they're actually like slightly different controls, and they don't have the same features, and they're not like, so it took me a while to figure that out. But I spent like 4 hours trying, like, why isn't this working? Why can't I get this to work? Why isn't this matching up? And then I finally, that's why this isn't what I'm expecting. So yeah, it tends to be that part. It's always the worst for me. But
a lot of the async stuff in XRM Toolbox is kind of hard to work with too, especially if you're using async libraries.
I wonder if we could change that.
Yeah,
we probably could. I'll think about it. Could probably offer a new way of. Dang it! You gave me homework to do, Mike. You're not supposed to do that. Come on, man. Because I wrote all that like async logic kind of stuff to kind of hide that from you as a developer. You just knew, I just have to implement this method and everything goes, and that way you wouldn't have all the issues with WinForms. But there is async support in WinForms, I believe, right? So you shouldn't have to do that. It should just, it should just give up the thread to the UI and allow it to run. I think it should work, right?
Yeah, I think it was just a matter of getting that box to pop up, that the nice "I'm working on it" box. And but anyway, yeah, I'm sure you'll figure it out.
Or like last time, I had a bug in it from like day one, and it was there for like until I think a year and a half ago. Tanky finally found the bugs. Like, hey, you have this as a static; it needs to be local, doesn't it? I was like, yes, that's why we've had this issue from like years. Where if you open up two tools and they're both running at the same time, they both give you like a status dialog thing. One of them would close, and one of them wouldn't, and you would be stuck that way until you close that tool. That was I had something as static; it shouldn't have been static, and that was the cause of it. Like 7 years later, Tanky found it. So anyway, so here's one. So it's mostly UI, right? So do you have any testing around this? Did you have any unit tests for this, or did you just, hey, it's UI driven, that's all it is? It's really kind of hard to test UI. I'm good to go. Because I found out this weekend when I got a bug that came in for the early bound generator where they were trying to filter down to over like 300 entities. And in the back end, when it's doing the query, it's adding all these conditional statements where the entity is this, or the entity is this, the entity is this, and it reached a limit that was higher than what it allows through an error. So it's like, okay, this is actually in the PAC model builder. I need to go and submit a PR for it. So I download it and I get it to build, and I realize they've got 0 unit tests on it all. They have a test project with one single test that all this is comments. There's no actual code in it. I was like, wow, never looked at this before. I thought there'd be a little bit more than that. So do you have any testing, or is it just testing's for sissies?
I do have some unit tests in there. I don't have any. I don't have any UI driven tests. I looked in. There's a few people who are building XRM Toolbox tools that do. And actually, no, that's not true. I think the one I was looking at was a library of controls that had tests associated with it. But I don't have any tests on the UI, but some of the backing stuff to download the NuGet packages and stuff like that, I do have unit tests around, which I wish I had. I'll be honest, like probably the reason my other tool kind of languished for as long as it did was because I didn't have unit tests in it. And I think, that trying to get back into a project, it really helps to like pull that thing down, run the unit tests, and get your mind back into where, how it works, and, and how things flow through the code and stuff like that. Like it's absolutely helpful to have those for projects like this, especially where they kind of go on the shelf for a little while, but then you want to get back to them. The tests help you kind of get your mind around it again. So, but yeah, I don't have a full suite of testing there.
Yeah, well, it helps you. Yeah, I'm not trying to guilty in that, no, not, but it helps to just to get the.
I'm gonna write that down. Test.
It helps to make sure you don't break anything too. That's the other important part too. So when you come back, 3 years, 4 years later, oh yeah, how did this thing work? I don't know. I think this is gonna be fine. And then at least if you've already set it up, it's usually a lot easier to add in. Okay, I need to change this part. Let me write a test for that part. Make sure I don't break it. Where if you just write it from scratch, no testing at all, you've tested it manually for 3 hours, yeah, everything's great. And then 4 years later, you come back to it, you're like, what was this thing again? How does this work? And then if you want to actually start testing it, then like you have to understand all of it all over again to even write it. So it just becomes so much harder.
And it's nice to just thrash around and just be able to do what you like and then see what you've broken, rather than kind of going and walking on eggshells and thinking, I don't really want to make any big changes here. Just like, just refactor this and whatever. And then it all kind of comes out in the wash. Yeah. But I mean, I'm guessing that the proof really is in whether or not the commands execute. And that's the challenge with this tool, is because really to properly test it, you do need to make sure that you can execute those commands against the PAC CLI, which is quite tricky because a lot of those commands they're destructive. They have an impact on, you need to be authenticated against an environment, all of those kind of things. So it's almost like you would need to keep a up-to-date valid list of, this is what the PAC CLI accepts as a valid set of commands. Does my tool produce the correct output? But then, of course, what you're trying to do is, in this kind of scenario, you're trying to hit a moving target. Because like the PAC CLI is changing. It's like the number of releases. It's just, and then there's a new verbs keep on being added, and new things deprecated, and so it's almost like this kind of tool is the types of unit tests or integration tests that you'd be creating would be not quite as valuable perhaps as something like your other tool that perhaps we can talk about a little bit.
Let's switch over to universal search.
Yeah, just wrapping on that, there are some commands I know don't work. Some of the interactive commands and stuff like that. But the majority of them do. But yeah, so universal search. Universal search, I think I built in, I don't know, 2012. That can't be right. So a long time ago. And it's still a useful tool. It's still a tool that I was using. It had a really gnarly kind of interface bug in it, or interface, I don't know, UX issue with it. And that's been around for a while, and I never got around to fixing. And I think maybe that would be the reason why, if a lot of people didn't use it. But it was intended to search Dataverse and search everything in Dataverse. So tables, right? Your tables, your columns, your fields, and the data in them, but also the metadata associated with them. So you could actually search for keywords inside of the metadata and find that keyword everywhere in the metadata in the entire solution or in the entire environment if you selected the default solution to search. It's fairly quick, like surprisingly quick, the way that it can search over stuff in Dataverse. It does wildcards, it does case matching. You can search for lookup names, you can search for lookup IDs, so you can do a lot with it. And I think the reason I built that tool to begin with was this sort of issue, and it's not as much of an issue nowadays, but it comes up occasionally where you get an error message and there's a GUID stuck in it, right? Like user GUID doesn't have role GUID, right? And it's like, okay, what is that? And it's not easy to find where that GUID comes from, and sometimes it doesn't tell you what the actual table is. So that was the reason I built it, and you can do those searches sort of over the entire environment for a value, and it sort of lays it out. You select a solution, and then you select the tables that you want to search, and then it'll come back up with a tab for each of the tables that it finds that value in, and a row for each of the places where it finds it. And then you can click into those rows to open up that thing. So apart from the UX issue that it had, which was in sort of the selection of the solution and the filtering of the tables and stuff like that, it didn't work very well. And it was using a control library that somebody else had built. So anyway, I won't name names. But anyway, so apart from that, it was no longer sort of universal, right? You could search metadata, you could search tables, but there were there's these new things that are coming into the platform, and there are some existing things that you just can't search over. One of them being Canvas apps. So, in currently the sort of the code and stuff like that behind the Canvas app it doesn't actually live in a Dataverse table, but it does come out when you export a solution. Then the other thing was plugin assemblies. So you can't search over plugin assemblies. They do live in a table, but they live in a table in a binary format. So, and there's probably other things as well. There's other things that sort of come out in the exported solution that live in tables but aren't easily searchable in Dataverse. And don't have an exhaustive list of those things, but the idea was, okay, we can search against table data, we can search against metadata. Let's add a search to be able to search against an exported solution. So a solution unpacked in its source code format and search the entire directory after you export it and unpack it. And in addition to that, since we have it on disk now, we can do some stuff with those, like format the JSON files so that they, aren't a single line of JSON, or the XML, format it to look nice so that when you pop it open in your text editor, when you double click and pop it open in your text editor, it looks nice, right? It's well formed and stuff like that. And so I added some of that capability, and then I also added the ability to search plugin. So going back to Canvas app, so it unpacks, it unzips the MS app file. It doesn't run the Canvas unpack experimental utility against it. It just kind of unzips the .ms app. And you do have some of the source code in there and stuff like that that you can search over. But the cool thing is I incorporated ILSpy libraries into universal search. So you could actually decompile plugin libraries and search the source code there. So that's pretty neat.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah, that is that's next level. I mean, like, you're kind of taking like this kind of universal search, and then you're like making even more universal. You're like, the universe is constantly expanding, they say, right? So, you're just going, well, what else can I search here? Oh yeah, I'll search that. Well, I'll search that. I'm going to search everything.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, I think that my LinkedIn post said that, like, the universal search universe is expanding. Yeah. I came up with that myself.
You didn't use ChatGPT to do that.
I didn't.
It's like the multiverse search.
Oh, wow. Goodness me. We're getting to multiverses now. And that's
the multiverse search.
Yeah. So I didn't have a use case for those things, but I thought it would be kind of cool. And, I know there's folks out there probably have plugins in their solutions that don't know where they came from, don't have the source code anymore, potentially, and just want to get a look at it.
I mean, yeah, that's huge for people that are new to a project. Let's see, you come on, it's a smaller company. They had somebody that worked on it 2 years ago. They haven't touched it in a year. They're gone. You come in and you're like, hey, we need to change this feature. And you're like, where is this implemented? Is it a workflow? Is it a plugin? Is it a some sort of action? Like, and so being able to be able to search everything for it like that would definitely help in those situations immensely. I'm sure.
Oh, sorry. If you're not using early bound like code, being able to search for a specific attribute that you want to delete or see if it's referenced, where it's referenced and stuff like that, it could be a potential use case as well.
Yeah, totally. Awesome. So now we search tons more things, and once we start searching flows, then I'll be impressed. No, I'm kidding. That would be impressive, though.
It's a quick question. So when it obviously, because you can use PAC solution, export, and then PAC solution unpack kind of to do. So there's a lot of things you need to do in order to get to that point where you've got your solution on disk, unpacked, the JSON in your flows, and all those kind of nicely formatted, all of the JSON in an XML, all of the places that it gets squirreled away where it's not on a single line, all that nicely formatted into it. And then your plugins decompile, all of that kind of stuff. There's a lot of things you got to do. Does it put it down onto disk so I can go and get at that? I mean, so could I crack that open in VS Code and do a Control S and do a search in VS Code like that?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So it puts it on disk, and there's, a subdirectory in sort of where the tool lives that it'll put it into. And then you also have an option to say, I want to download the latest solution every time, or I just want to search again on the thing I just brought down, or the last version I brought down. That way, because it is a little slow, right? Like that process of exporting the solution is slow. So you can either have it export every time, or you can say, no, I want to continue searching over, the thing that I already downloaded. But yes, you could open VS Code, navigate to that folder, and start doing your searching there. And then you can do some cooler stuff like regex searches and stuff like that.
I mean, as much as, I love your UI for searching and stuff. I think it's great. I do prefer VS Code. I mean, I'm not. It's just,
there we go. There's another homework. Then you have a VS Code button that hey, I just wanted to open this up. VS Code. Yeah.
I just really a big button that just allows me to select a solution and a folder and do all of that magic. To me, that justifies the entire tool. I mean, that's huge, because to do that magic is and also it's also the experience that you have. Where JSON is squirreled away that needs formatting. Where the XML that doesn't get formatted correctly is. How to do that decompiling of the plugins. I mean, there's a lot of things that you need to do in order to understand how to get to the point where you can do a search in VS Code. So that's what's happened here, is you bundled all that experience up into a single button. And I think that's huge for me.
Yeah. I think it has a lot of potential use cases for it. It could have been, like you said, it could have been a tool in and of itself. But universal search seemed to be the place to do it. I already had all the scaffolding and, the nice layout of the tabular,
and it's called universal search as well. So, you needed to make it truly. So it's like a challenge to you, You're just like, you wake up one morning and think, I've called it universal search, but it's really not universal. I need to make it, I need to make it true to its name.
You can stop lying to myself.
Every morning thinking that. It was like for the past 5 years. It's been awful.
I mean, there's a little insight into Mike's brain here right now, right? We're peeking through. It's like, what's that film, Being John Malkovich? It's like, it's the same kind of, we're just going in there. I mean, you mentioned earlier, and which is intriguing me, how you'd been in that place before where you used to kind of crack open, Visual Studio or VS Code and do some coding and just doing that in the evenings or whatever, or the weekends. And you hadn't been in that place for a while, and now you're back in that place. I think we've certainly people that do coding, a lot of people I've spoken to have that same kind of ebbing and flowing throughout their whole life, where they'll go through periods of time where suddenly they've just got all this creativity and all this energy just to kind of churn out code. And I've done the same, and it's like, wow, look, I did all this stuff here between the months of, January and March. And then it's like, oh, well, then the March I didn't do very much because I wasn't inspired. I mean, have you found anything that correlates to that? I mean, is there anything in your life? Is it a time of, like the year, like winter or summer, or is it just simply random? You can't work out what it is.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I think it was just, divine inspiration, or maybe that nagging that I woke up with every morning. No, it's like, I think it's one of those things where you get an idea, right? Like you get an idea and it swirls around in your head for a long time. And then at some point you actually have the time, right? Like I happen to have an entire weekend where I could sit down. Like I've got a family, and that doesn't happen very often. And I think I just said, I could work on the house today. I could do yard work. I could do any of a million things that I'm so-called required to do, or I can do this fun project. And, it's like woodworking a lot of times for me. Like it is, I enjoy doing it, and it's satisfying at the end when you have something built, just like woodworking or if you do pottery or whatever it is. It's and obviously, like I wasn't sitting here, headphones on and completely focused, right? I had had some stuff streaming on my other monitor, and I was, I had some snacks, and I was
XrmToolCast was on the other. XrmToolCast was on the other monitor.
Obviously,
yes.
And and I enjoyed it. So, but yeah, I think that is it seems like for everybody, that kind of ebb and flow, and I'll probably ebb for a little while now.
And, you just bask in the reflective glory of what you've produced.
Gone through some rapids. Now you're in the lazy river portion of development.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to ask what kind of snacks you use, because maybe there's some kind of snacks that kind of are inspirational for you. It's like I get too distracted from that.
I've been eating a lot of avocado recently, like just avocado with salt and pepper. I don't know, like some weird stuff going on with me. You've
reached that age in your life now where this is the thing. Now it's like, wow, avocado toast is all. It's all about the avocado.
The avocado section of our episode today.
Yes, that's right. This podcast is sponsored by the avocado growers of North America.
It's funny how we do get that bug from time to time but it's not just coding though. I think it's almost most part about our life. Like we get into like, man, I just really want to spend some time diving into this. It's been a while. Like especially with things that we enjoy doing. Like it may, I'll pick up Nintendo games that I used to spend hours playing when I was a kid, and I won't play them for 6 years. And then all of a sudden I'm like, I just want to play that game for some reason. And so I spend 3 hours playing it, and then I don't play it again for another 4 years. It's just kind of funny how you just kind of get into those. At least I get into those little ruts of, I'm gonna go do this. This will be fun. So
you kind of get into a state of mind, don't you, that it becomes you fixate on something for a while, and then you use up all the energy, and then you're on to the next thing. I saw someone on the plane coming back from Germany with it was a Game Boy, a Nintendo Game Boy.
Like original?
Well, I mean, it was black and white, and it looked like the original. It looked kind of clunky like the original. I don't know if it was an updated, if it was like hollow or something, or maybe it could.
It was like black and yellowish green though.
Yeah, the screen. It was like a kind
screen,
of
yes.
Yeah, plastic
with
Yeah. But I don't think I'd go to those extremes. I don't think I'd play on something on the Nintendo Game Boy.
Well, Mike, what have you been up to besides? So you have those two tools. I'm assuming you've finished up most of your work on the ALM side of the house, working with Microsoft on that. What have you been up to recently, or are you speaking anything soon, or what's going on outside of these tools?
So I'm gonna make a quick apology. My laptop's almost dead. If I get cut off, that's not gonna be great. But if I plug in, my docking station's gonna take over, and then who knows what'll happen. But so let's see how this goes.
All right.
The ALM Accelerator was something that I've been working on for 3 years, I think, with Microsoft and the PowerCat team, and the sort of advances that are coming to the platform for ALM have just, been fast and furious. And it was, sort of decided that, the CAT team was probably going to, ramp down a little bit on ALM Accelerator. It is in a state where it's, stable, and it's still a very valuable tool. And, there's a lot of folks. I've started some new contracts, and both of the new contracts I'm on are using the ALM Accelerator. I'm not there working on the ALM Accelerator, but they're both using it. And so I think it helped accelerate some of the product work that happened as well within the Power Platform on ALM. So. It's exciting. And, when I started with PowerCat, Mark told me, we're building these tools not as the future of ALM. It is, a stepping stone to these sort of experiences getting into the product. And someday the ALM Accelerator will put itself out of business, which it, it kind of headed in that direction with the stuff that's coming into the platform. So that's exciting. Still working a little bit with Microsoft on the Dataverse team part-time, and then started some new contracts just recently, and getting to do one of the contracts is a smaller ISV. I'm getting to write code, and I'm happy about that. So I'm writing some plugin code, and then my the other side of what I've been doing more full-time basis is low code. So I enjoy low code, but it's kind of become my primary thing is low code, even though I come from that pro code background. So I
love it.
Work both sides of things.
Yeah, that's the way it should be.
I tend to go back and forth. Like I'll spend a year and a half doing low code, and then 3 years doing regular code, and then another year and a half doing I don't know what it is. It's like it comes in swings. So
it's always been like that. I mean, we've always just the tools have changed, right? We've always moved with the times. You can't be a developer and not move with ways of allowing you to write less code and ways of being able to make the development process more efficient. It's always been about that throughout the whole history since the dawn of software engineering in its first place. So it's no surprise that I think so many of us that started purely in pro code have now gone to this place where we're using the right tools at the right time.
Yep.
Cool. Well, Mike, is there anything else we need to chat up on before we say goodbye?
No, I'll put a plug in for Excellence. If we're kind of trying to start a ALM practice at Excellence.
Oh.
So, I get use some of the expertise I've gained over the past 4 years to help other people get going with ALM and the Power Platform. So, that's.
I think that could be a huge value proposition. Coming in and you don't have to learn ALM. I'll set it up for you in 4 hours, and then you guys don't have to spend 5 days figuring it out yourself and coming up with something that's going to be subpar. That would be a heck, man. I'll find a project. I'll use you. I'll figure it out.
Great.
Sorry, I've only done it once. I'm like, it worked. The ALM stuff I set up, but is it the way it's supposed to be? I don't know. Will it work on a long-term project? We have to deal with hotfix and stuff. I don't know. We never actually deployed the prod on the project before I left, so who knows? But worked great for development. But anyway, yeah, cool. Well, I wish you luck with that. And if our listeners want to get a hold of you, Mike, how do they get a hold of you?
So on GitHub, Mike Factorial. On X, I'm Mike Factorial. On LinkedIn, I don't know, Michael S. Ochs, something like that. I don't know. But you can also reach me at mike@mikefactorial.com. So
your LinkedIn profile is linkedin.com/n/Mike Factorial. So, I mean,
there you go.
Your page is Mike Factorial, even though your name is obviously Mike Ochs on LinkedIn. But yes. Yeah. Well, awesome. Scott, that's how our listeners can get a hold of our guests. How can our listeners get a hold of us?
Well, yeah, thank you, Daryl. Yeah, just quick reminder about the European Power Platform Summit before we kind of finish up. It's Brussels, 11th to the 13th of June. If you fancy going there, you can get, as part of the XrmToolCast, you can get a 10% discount on your ticket if you use the discount code ScottDuro. You can email us if you want to email us about questions or suggestions, cast@xrmtoolbox.com, or on socials @XrmToolCast. It's been really great to chat with you, Mike. And any of our listeners, if you want any help with ALM, you need some guidance, then please do reach out to Mike, because he is one of the leading thought leader in this area. Let's go with that, shall we? Let's go with that.
Even if he can't think, he has experience, whatever that's worth.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Yes.
Mike, thanks for being on. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Mike.
See you later.
Bye-bye for now.
This has been the XrmToolCast with Daryl Labar and Scott Durrell. Produced by Lynn Zawin. If you have any questions or suggestions, please send them to cast@xrmtoolbox.com, tweet @XrmToolCast, or hit us up on our LinkedIn XrmToolCast page.